Welcome back! Today is day 23 of Vlogtober, and we are going to answer one of the most asked questions every artist has, which is, how do I price my artwork? I know how I price my artwork, but I know there's so many variations on how to do it, I thought it'd be best if I asked all my artist friends. So I reached out on Instagram and Facebook, and here's what people had to say. Poodle Sarah Lane says, I still do prices per hour of work to figure out a ballpark rate since I do mostly commissions. Eamon says, $150 for a figure commission, $50 for a head sketch or additional figure. Raw Fish and Beer says, not high enough. Jinxed Art says, I think to myself, how much would I buy it for? That usually sets the general amount, then I adjust for time and materials. Tracy Taylor _art says, well, it depends where it is and what the clientele are. Serious or a small souvenir. Anywhere from $25 to $5,000. So that's a pretty broad range that she's talking about. And I know my question is maybe a little vague. I should have said something more specific like, what do you charge for a 18 by 20 inch painting? I got a lot more answers on Facebook, so let's look at those now. Jeremy says, at first I started out low, and just each year that passes I raise it a little. The better I get, the higher the cost. Size plays a huge role as well. Also, popularity of the subject matter. If I know it's going to sell no matter what, I keep a high price. Also, sometimes if I don't want to sell a piece right away, I keep a high price. Sometimes it sells for that price anyway. Jesse says, depends on the thing. I pretty much decided to try to make $25 an hour, but I still quote the price for how much time I think a project will take. Sometimes I wind up way undercutting that mark because I mess up or have to spend a bunch of hours learning a new thing, but it's never wasted time. That's for commissions. For oil paintings, sometimes I'll do per square inch. George responded to Jesse's answer by saying, that's the proper answer, oil per square inch for project. I also do for renderings one correction. Anything more, they pay because if they don't, they'll make changes till doomsday. I do estimated time plus one fix. If you don't like a guy pointing at the sky in a red shirt versus a blue shirt, and that's your only problem, hey, that's the fix. If you estimate wrong, that's a loss that we learn from. Randolph says, I like to charge a base hourly rate, usually $20 to $30 per hour, then tack on additional costs based on the type of project and how rendered it needs to be. If I'm simply throwing together a loose concept, I'll charge a base hourly. If a client wants a highly polished render or multiple variations, I'll charge a little extra per hour. It really all depends. If the project is very intensive material-wise, but not as much time-wise, I'll ask the client to pay what I know the materials will cost, and I'll charge a lower hourly. Ashley says, per hour plus materials, percent shifts based on location and method of sales. Kat says, my constant struggle. I always ask my friends what they would pay for it, and I think what I would pay for it, because I'm cheap, so I figure if I'd pay that, then so would anyone else. This next one is one of the better answers we got from my friend Justin, and he says, price of materials plus dollars per hour depending on how great I think I am that day, plus price of amount of alcohol and weed needed to get the right ratio for inspiration and motivation. Of course you have to take that into account. Cindy, who is a jewelry maker, says, I use an algorithm I found online that factors in time, materials, and overhead. Jeremy says, based either on size or hours spent with a base amount, depending on the project/piece. Consistency is the key though. Mindy says, I price it really high so no one buys it, and then I give it to one of my friends for free. It's really stupid. I love Mindy's answer. It just cracks me up. And I feel like a lot of people do that. Jamie says, hourly plus materials plus sentimental value. Some things just cost more than others for irrational, emotional reasons. That's another funny one. It's great, it's honest, and why not? If you created it, you can price it at whatever you want, for whatever reason. Here's another great one. This one comes in really handy. This is what my friend Nick says. One of my goons holds the buyer upside down and shakes. That probably works. Sarah, who also answered on Instagram, got a little more detailed when she answered on Facebook, so here's Sarah's updated answer. I price mine based on an hourly rate, charging $45 for most things and creating a quote from how long I think the project will take. If it involves large murals, the pricing is going to be a little more, and for pet portraits, it's also hourly and based on size and how many portraits. I create 99% commissions nowadays. I think those are some great insights into pricing, and I'm going to tell you how I do it. For me, basing it on a per hour cost I think is best, and I do that in combination with the size of the painting. So what I've done in the past is I've actually timed myself making a painting. So I'll do a 6-inch square, see how long that takes me. I'll do a 12-inch square and see how long that takes me, and I came up with my prices based on that. So what happens is sometimes there's a painting that takes longer than it normally would, and I just keep it at the base price to keep everything consistent. And then there's those times where you make a painting and you can just bust out really fast, and in that situation it just sort of feels like a bonus when you get paid for it, or it feels like you got paid more per hour on that particular painting. And I don't see anything wrong with that. Something that really bothers me when I'm in an art gallery is if I see different prices on paintings that are the same size. If it's two different artists, that's one thing, but if it's the same artist and they have one 12-inch painting for $200 and another 12-inch painting for $300, that just doesn't work in my brain. It kind of gets me upset and it doesn't make any sense to me. That's why all of my paintings have the same price if they're the same size, regardless of how much time I spent on it. But I do contradict myself because there are a few cases where a painting might have been sitting around for a while and I just want to get rid of it. Then I'll drop the price. I don't want to hold on to anything for too long, and it's been working out for me this long, so I'm just going to keep that up. I feel like this pricing video could easily be 30 minutes long because there's so many things to talk about, but I'm trying to keep it short and sweet, so I'm just gonna say one more thing, and that's if you're starting out, keep in mind where you're at in your career. Because too many times I've seen people price their artwork super high and they base their price on what they've seen similar artists do. So you need to consider the fact that if you're comparing your art to some well-known artist you see in a magazine, keep in mind they've probably been doing this for 20 years. They might have a waiting list of 30 people waiting to buy their paintings, and there's a good chance you don't. Okay, this is actually my really last thing. If you're just starting out, you're getting your first art show, I would say price your work at an amount you're willing to let it go for. In my opinion, it's better to start with low prices and then raise them as time progresses. When you do it that way, it's exciting because that means you're selling artwork. Let's just say you sell an 8x10 painting for $100 within the first week of posting it on Instagram, then try that again. And maybe when you sell a dozen of them at that price, then raise it a little and see what happens, and just grow from there. Like I said, this is a topic that can go on forever, so I'm just gonna wrap it up here. If you have any questions, please let me know. Leave a comment below. You can send me a DM on Instagram at Jeff Clausen. I feel like this topic is to be continued. I just feel like there's so much more to say, but let's end it here. See you guys tomorrow.